What we have done is that we have reduced the taxation rate in order to offset the impact of the value increase. So there's two measures that we're taking to make sure that people don't feel like an incredible shock. The first one is, like I said, the reduction of our taxation rate, and the second thing is to spread the property value increase over 3 years. So you're going to be paying this year on 1/3 more, and then the next year another third, and the next year another third. Because, one of the things that was important to us was the fact that we wanted to protect the capacity of spending of Montrealers, because we know that things are tough for everybody.
Dominique Olivier, she's Executive Committee Chairperson at Projet Montréal, talking about the announcement today. The city introduced its new budget, almost $7 billion budget. And, of course, the big question here for everybody residentially is the fact that the average tax increase is 4.1%. But remember, that's just an average. There are plenty of places where it's above that, including in NDG.
Bizarre, 6%, NDG 5.4%.
The concern was, when we asked for reaction to this, was people thought, wait a second. One caller actually did a good job of explaining it, at least thought he understood it, which was property valuations were announced a couple of weeks ago, and they're up in some cases, in your case at NDG, up over 50%, right? Mm-hmm. So people thought, wait a sec, 4.1, even at 4.1%, you're having to pay the tax on an entirely new property valuation, which is 50% higher than what it was the last time we had one of these things done. But it's not, as she just explained.
Yes.
It's now divided over 3 years. So you pay a third of that property valuation increase now, a third next year, and a third the year after that.
I was hugely relieved to hear that. There's no question, but it's still going to hurt. It's still a lot more money for the average person on that in Montreal. It's going to hurt.
So, to be fair, we heard from the city. We heard from Dominique Olivier. We thought it's only fair to hear from the official opposition spokesperson for finance at Ensemble Montreal. That's Saint-Laurent Borough Mayor Alan DESOUSA, who's on the line right now. Alan, thanks for being here this afternoon. Give me your reaction. I understand from what I saw anyway, Aris Salem tweeted out that this is the biggest tax increase for Montrealers in how long?
Over a decade. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Natasha. Thanks for having me on. But just listening to the comments I just heard, the city really didn't do any heavy lifting. Extending the valuations over 3 years is pretty easy peasy. Lowering the rate, every administration has done that. If the city had really wanted to take the oomph out of tax increases and inflation, they would have taken the axe to extra spending. And that's something they didn't do. The budget that we have is a $6.8 billion budget with $300 million in increased spending. So beyond the words, it's the actions that count. And when you see $300 million, there's just no way I can believe that the city is taking inflation seriously, nor can I believe that they're taking it seriously when they're hiring 646 new employees at a time when everyone is holding their salaries, their employees, their employment levels at the same time, holding their breath, waiting for this recession to hit. The city is getting out there and splurging. So allow me to be a little bit skeptical.
All right, well, let me bring up a couple of things, to be fair. One of the big expenditures here, the biggest, I guess, part, is on the police force. There's additional $63 million going to the police, so that's a big chunk of the extra money being spent. And from what I remembered when we had Dominique Olivier on, she also mentioned that part of this is not necessarily even spending. Part of this is the fact that the city is facing increased costs for some of its services, so some of that money is going there as well. Where's your issue with some of the money that's being spent beyond those two issues?
Well, let's just say on the police, it's something we think is needed, and on that one, you don't have a quibble out of us. That being said, a lot of the city's existing spending is locked into contracts that are at 2.5%. So civil servants contracts already, there's no major union negotiations on the horizon, and so to suggest that our salaries, which is close to 40% of the budget, are subject to inflationary rates of 7% is just not true. So are there other issues on increase? Yeah, perhaps on some construction contracts, perhaps on some professionals, maybe on gas. But the bulk of our pieces is in salaries, and that's locked in. So I would like to see them just do it a little bit better. I think we have a case where they could reduce spending. We have a case where they could reduce debts. Right now, as we speak, we're closing on close to $1 billion in interest that we're forking out next year just to service our debt. Now, I don't have to tell you, Aaron, don't have to tell you, Natasha, that when you're putting $1 billion out, there's lots of other services you could be doing for $1 billion. You could be dealing with homelessness, you could be dealing with parks, you could be dealing with roads, you could be dealing with potholes. $1 billion is a huge chunk of change, and that's what we're forking out in debt costs. And next year, interest rates will be high, and we'll have to continue to spend that. So we're getting whacked. We're getting whacked through the valuations. We're getting whacked through additional spending. And it's not just the city of Montreal and the boroughs are getting whacked. And Natasha, you're at 4.4% in NDG. So that's way beyond the 4.1%. But the other cities on the island are also getting whacked because we're seeing a higher cost in agglomeration spending as well. And so whether you live in Beaconsfield or Bay Durfee or DDO, you name it, you're getting an increase that your city is going to have to pay to the Center City Administration. And all of those mayors are scratching their heads and figuring out how do they balance their budget in a very short period of time.
We asked Madame Olivier, of course, about the extra $300 million, and we talked about the fact that, Montrealers are having to tighten their belts. Just everything is costing so much more. Shouldn't the city also be tightening their belt and trying to be more cost efficient? And basically the explanation was the concern is over the level of services, that the level of services might suffer. Are you buying that?
Not really, because we're seeing that in many cases they're increasing the amounts, they're increasing the spending, but services are still going to be reduced. And in that sense, we see it in the capital expenditure budgets because, as I've said before, when I came on your show, Natasha, we talked about the cost overruns. Well, if you're paying $1 billion more in 5 major projects, you got $1 billion less to put on roads. So I don't have to tell you that if you don't manage your money well, if you don't manage personally your money well, you're going to be out of luck at the end of the month. If the city doesn't manage its money well, it's the taxpayers have to pick up the bill. So I think there's an issue of spending, there's an issue of management, and there's an issue of indebtedness, and the chickens are coming home to roost.
So what do we do about it?
Well, the administration has got to get it, and I don't think they get it. I think they seem to think living in an ivory tower that they can continue to spend. And let's be clear, I mean, the Projet Montréal is a tax and spend party. I mean, it's not new. They've done it in 5 years. We've seen over 2,300 new employees added on in the last 5 years, and none of this is new. That being said, I'm hopeful at some point in time Montrealers are going to pass a message to them and say, look, this doesn't meet our expectations. We're all taxpayers. They can well want to spend, but at the end of the day, every one of us has got to pick up the tab. And I just hope that people tell their elected officials, tell their councillors, tell the mayor that this type of spending is unsustainable. I mean, just imagine, if we're going into a recession as we speak and an economic slowdown in 2023, how do you think we're positioned when we're up to our eyeballs in debt and we've reached the max of our spending capacity? The only other option, if the interest rates continue to go up, will be to start slashing services, and that would be something that most Montrealers would want.
Not a good option.
You don't take the time to put your own house in order, you're going to wind up paying the price for it sometime.
Or getting the provincial government to cough over the kind of money that needs to, so it's not always about residential taxes that, provides the bulk of revenue for the city, but I think we're a long way away from that. Alan, I thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Aaron. Thanks, Natasha.
Alan DeSouza, official opposition spokesperson for finance at Ensemble Montreal, commenting on the Projet Montréal budget that came down today. And again, if you're in one of those demerged suburbs, one of those 15 suburbs, chances are it's
coming.
going to be even higher.
It's coming.